Hare Krishna, my friends. Welcome to Bhaktiville. This is our last Friday night reading of the year. Teachings of Queen Kunti have been very inspiring to me. Even though caught in so many devastating situations, she always thinks of Krishna. Such a good instruction. In review of this last year, last July, we finished our Friday night reading of the Nectar of Devotion, which took about a year and a half for us to read. On Tuesday nights, we've been reading Bhagavad Gita, and we're currently on chapter 10, and should finish that in the next couple of months. On Sundays, we've been reading Bhagavat Arka Marici Mala, Srila Bhaktivinode's compilation of 1,000 important verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we've been reading that for the last 43 weeks every Sunday morning. We've even had some DJ Hare Krishna dance parties. So please consider joining us here in Bhaktiville for any of these activities. We only record Friday nights, so you need to come in to Second Life for the others. We love to add more activities, so let us know your ideas and suggestions. We're here doing Hare Krishna stuff in the virtual world. Tonight's reading and Teachings of Queen Kunti, we're on chapter 12, Bewildering Pastimes. It's on page 107 of the PDF, or page 79 of the book. But before I get started, let me offer my obeisances. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripasindubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. I also offer my respectful obeisances unto the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, here and all around the galaxy and the universe. They are just like desire trees and can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vaishnava devotees past, present, and future, everybody all the time. So before we get started though, there's a picture in the book that we have up here on the slide viewer, and it's that picture of how the Brahman sees everything as equal, or the sadhu sees everything as equal, and then there's Vishnu up above. And let's see what the comment is, the caption for this is. Queen Kunti knew that in reality, Krishna was neither her nephew nor an ordinary family member of her paternal house. She knew perfectly well that he was the primeval Lord, who lives in everyone's heart as the Supersoul. Thus, she addressed him as the Supreme Controller, without beginning or end, the all-pervasive one. Here we see how Lord Krishna's all-pervasive Supersoul, now I can't see the picture, Supersoul feature is expanded in the hearts of all creatures. Okay, so that's the picture. So it's showing that Krishna's all-pervasive Supersoul, as Supersoul, is in everyone's heart. The fish, the dog, the lion, the women, the children, everybody. All right, so let me get to our text after I change the position of this little avatar, so she's sitting more patiently. Oh, she's floating. Oh well. All right. So let's, Bhakti, can you, let me see if I can do it. I'm not floating. Okay, good. Nope, I got it. I wanted to change the slide viewer page. All right, so the slide viewer page, we are looking at chapter 12, and let's look at the word for word. Na, does not. Veda, no. Kashchit, anyone. Bhagavan, O Lord. Chikir Shitam, pastimes. Tava, your. Ehamanasya, like the worldly men. Nrinam, of the people in general. Vidambanam, misleading. Na, never. Yasya, his. Kashchit, anyone. Daitaha, object of specific favor. Asti, there is. Karhichit, anywhere. Dveshaha, object of envy. Cha, and. Yasmin, unto him. Veshama, partiality. Matihi, conception. Nrinam, of the people. And the verse in Sanskrit. Na Veda Kaschid Bhagavams Chikirshitam. Tave Hamanasya Nrinam Vidambanam. Nayasya Kaschid Daitos Dikarhichid. Veshas Chayasmin Vishama Matir Nrinam. English translation. O Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastimes, which appear to be human and so are misleading. You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy. People only imagine that you are partial. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 8th chapter, verse 29. So on to our text. Let me just do a couple things. All right. The Lord's mercy upon the fallen souls is equally distributed. He has no one as the specific object of hostility. The very conception of the personality of Godhead as a human being is misleading. His pastimes appear to be exactly like a human being's, but actually they are transcendental and without any tinge of material contamination. He is undoubtedly known as partial to his devotees, but in fact, he is never partial, as much as the sun is never partial to anyone. By utilizing the sun rays, sometimes even the stones become valuable, whereas a blind man cannot see the sun, although there are enough sun rays before him. Darkness and light are two opposite conceptions, but this does not mean that the sun is partial in distributing its rays. The sun rays are open to everyone, but the capacities of the receptacles differ. Foolish people think that devotional service is flattering the Lord to get special mercy. Factually, the pure devotees who are engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord are not a mercantile community. A mercantile house renders service to someone in exchange for values or goods. A pure devotee does not render service unto the Lord for such exchange, and therefore the full mercy of the Lord is open for him. Suffering and needy men, inquisitive persons, or philosophers make temporary connections with the Lord to serve a particular purpose. And here he's referencing that Bhagavad Gita verse, chapter 7, verse 16, where Krishna says, O best among the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. So when the purpose is served, there is no more relation with the Lord. That's the mercantile group. A suffering man, if he is pious at all, prays to the Lord for his recovery. But as soon as the recovery is over, in most cases, the suffering man no longer cares to keep any connection with the Lord. The mercy of the Lord is open for him, but he is reluctant to receive it. That is the difference between a pure devotee and a mixed devotee. Those who are completely against the service of the Lord are considered to be in abject darkness. Those who ask for the Lord's favor only at the time of necessity are partial recipients of the mercy of the Lord. And those who are 100% engaged in the service of the Lord are full recipients of the mercy of the Lord. Such partiality in receiving the Lord's mercy is relative to the recipient and is not due to the partiality of the all-merciful Lord. I think that's such an interesting sentence. I had not ever thought of it that way. Such partiality in receiving the Lord's mercy is relative to the recipient. Bhaktiville says in the comments, he says a bit impersonal. Well, no, he's relating that to what he's just set up above, that if a person is 100% given himself to Krishna, then he reciprocates completely. When the Lord descends on this material world by his all-merciful energy, he plays like a human being, and therefore it appears that the Lord is partial to his devotees only, but that is not a fact. Despite such an apparent manifestation of partiality, his mercy is equally distributed. In the battlefield of Kurukshetra, all persons who died in the fight before the presence of the Lord got salvation without the necessary qualifications, because death before the presence of the Lord purifies the passing soul from the effects of all sins, and therefore the dying man gets a place somewhere in the transcendental abode. Somehow or other, if someone puts himself open in the sun rays, he is sure to get the requisite benefit both by heat and by ultraviolet rays. Therefore, the conclusion is that the Lord is never partial. It is wrong for the people in general to think of him as partial. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 4:8, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam dharma. Sorry, let me finish this. Dharma samstapa nartaya sambhavame yuge. In order to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion, I advent myself millennium after millennium. And in chat, Bhaktiville says, Prabhupada always gives us an apple at the end. Yes. Yes, he always ties it up and brings it back to the center again. When God incarnates, he has two missions: to vanquish the demons and deliver the sadhus, the faithful devotees. The word sadhunam, which means saintly persons, refers to devotees. It has nothing to do with worldly honesty or dishonesty, morality or immorality. It has nothing to do with material activities. Bhaktiville says in chat, and to Krishna's most gentle nature. Yes, true. Sometimes we may think that the word sadhu refers to a person who is materially good or moral, but actually the word sadhu refers to one who is on the transcendental platform. A sadhu, therefore, is a devotee, because one who engages in devotional service is transcendental to material qualities. Sagunan samatitya sagunam samatitya. Literally, that means he transcends the gunas, and that's from Bhagavad Gita 14:26. One who engages in full devotional service and failing in all circumstances at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Now, the Lord comes to deliver the devotees, Paritranaya sadhunam, but it is clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita 14:26, referenced above, that a devotee transcends the material qualities, sagunam, samitityaitan. A devotee is in a transcendental position because he is no longer under the control of the three material modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. But if a sadhu is already delivered, being on the transcendental platform, then where is the necessity of delivering him? This question may arise. The Lord comes to deliver the devotee, but the devotee is already delivered. Therefore, the word vidambanam, meaning bewildering, is used in this verse because this appears to be contradictory. The answer to this contradiction is that a sadhu, a devotee, does not require deliverance. But because he is very much anxious to see the Supreme Lord face to face, Krishna comes not to deliver him from the clutches of matter, from which he has already been delivered, but to satisfy his inner desire. Just as a devotee wants to satisfy the Lord in all respects, the Lord even more wants to satisfy the devotee. Such are the exchanges of loving affairs. Even in our ordinary dealings, if we love someone, we want to satisfy him or her, and he or she also wants to reciprocate. So if the reciprocation of loving affairs exists in this material world, in what an elevated way must it exist in the spiritual world? There is a verse in which the Lord says, "The sadhu is my heart, and I am also the sadhu's heart." The sadhu is always thinking of Krishna, and Krishna is always thinking of the sadhu, his devotee. The appearance and disappearance of the Lord within this material world is called Chakirshittam, pastimes. It is Krishna's pastime that he comes. Of course, when the Lord comes, he has some work to perform, to protect the sadhu and kill those who are against the sadhu. But both of these activities are his pastimes. And the Lord is not envious. Oh, Bhaktiville has another comment. Prabhupada tells us his relationship with Krishna. Yes. I like that he comes to deliver, but people are already delivered. So then he's, okay, well then I'm going to work on your inner relationship. I like that. The Lord is not envious. The killing of the demons is also a display of his affection. Sometimes we may punish our children by giving them a very strong slap because of love. Similarly, when Krishna kills a demon, this killing is not on the platform of material jealousy or envy, but on the platform of affection. Therefore, it is mentioned in the Shastras, the Vedic literatures, that even the demons killed by the Lord attain immediate salvation. Putana, for example, was a demoniac witch who wanted to kill Krishna. When Krishna was performing pastimes as a small child, she coated the nipple of her breast with poison and approached Krishna's home to offer the milk of her breast. When Krishna sucks my nipple, she thought, the child will immediately die. But that was not possible. Who can kill Krishna? Instead, she herself was killed, for Krishna sucked the nipple and also sucked out her life altogether. But what was the result? Krishna took the bright side. This demoniac woman came to kill me, he thought, but somehow or other I have sucked her breast milk, so she is my mother. Thus Putana attained the position of Krishna's mother in the spiritual world. This is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where Uddhava says to Vidura that Krishna is so kind, God is so kind, that even the witch who wanted to kill him with poison was accepted as his mother. Since Krishna is such a kind God, he said, whom else shall I worship but Krishna? Bhaktiville has in comments to say a very advanced stage. I think he was talking about my comment above. about the inner life, the inner relationship. Yes, he says. So Kunti Devi says, Na yasya kaschid dayitaha. The word dayita means favor. Krishna favors no one. Dveshascha, and no one is his enemy. We accept some benediction or profit from a friend and harmful activities from an enemy. But Krishna is so perfect that no one can harm him, nor can anyone give him anything. So who can be his friend or his enemy? Na yasya kaschit dayitosti. He doesn't need anyone's favor. He is complete. I may be a very poor man, and therefore I may expect some favor from a friend, but that is because I am imperfect, because I am not full, because I am deficient in so many ways. I am always needy, and therefore I want to create some friend, and similarly I hate an enemy. But since Krishna is the supreme, no one can harm Krishna, nor can anyone give Krishna anything. Why then are we worshiping Krishna in the temple? By offering Krishna so many comforts, dressing him, decorating him, and giving him nice food? Good question. We should try to understand that Krishna does not need our offerings of nice garments, flowers, or food, but if we give such offerings to Krishna, we shall benefit. Thus, it is Krishna's favor that he accepts such offerings. If one decorates oneself, one's reflection in a mirror will also appear decorated. Similarly, since we are reflections of Krishna, if we decorate Krishna, we also shall be decorated. In the Bible, it is said that man was made in the image of God. This means that we are reflections of God's image. It is not that we invent or imagine some form of God according to our own form. Those who adhere to the Mayavadi philosophy of anthropomorphism say absolute truth is impersonal, but because we are persons, we imagine that the absolute truth is also a person. So he's saying that we, the devotees, imagine that the absolute truth is also a person. And this is a mistake, Prabhupada says. And in fact, just the opposite is true. We have 2 hands, 2 legs, and a head because God himself has these same features. We have personal forms because we are reflections of God. Furthermore, we should philosophically understand that if the original person benefits, the reflection also benefits. So if we decorate Krishna, we also shall be decorated. If we satisfy Krishna, we shall become satisfied. If we offer nice food to Krishna, we shall also eat the same food. Those who live outside the temples of Krishna consciousness may never have imagined such palatable food as the food we are offering to Krishna. But because it is being offered to Krishna, we also have the opportunity to eat it. So we should try in all respects to satisfy Krishna, and then we shall be satisfied in all respects. Krishna does not need our service, but he kindly accepts it. When Krishna asks us to surrender unto him, Sarvadharmam Parityaja Mam Ekam Sharanam Braja. That's that verse in Bhagavad Gita 1866, to abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. This does not mean that Krishna is lacking servants, and that if we surrender, he will profit. Krishna can create millions of servants by his mere desire, so that is not the point. But if we surrender to Krishna, we shall be saved. For Krishna says, Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami. I shall free you from all sinful reactions. That's the end part of that same verse. We are suffering here in this material world without any shelter. We even see so many people loitering in the street, with no aim in life. And here he's talking about the 60s. When we go walking, although a lot of this is true now also, when we go walking by the beach in the early morning, we see many young people sleeping or loitering here, there, aimless, confused, and not knowing what to do. But if we take shelter of Krishna, then we shall know, oh, now I have found shelter. Then there will be no more confusion, no more hopelessness. I receive so many letters daily from people expressing how they have found hope in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, it is not a fact that Krishna descended here merely to collect some servants. Rather, he descended for our benefit. Unfortunately, however, instead of becoming Krishna's servants, we are becoming servants of so many other things. We are servants of our senses and the sensual activities of lust, anger, greed, and illusion. Actually, the whole world is serving in this way. But if we engage our senses in the service of Krishna, we shall no longer be servants of the senses, but masters of the senses. When we have the strength to refuse to allow our senses to be engaged other than in the service of Krishna, then we shall be saved. Here, Kunti Devi says, your appearance in this material world is misleading, bewildering. We think Krishna has some mission, some purpose, and therefore he has appeared. No, it is for his pastimes that he appears. For example, sometimes a governor goes to inspect a prison, gets reports from the prison superintendent, so he has no business going there, but still, he sometimes goes, thinking, let me see how they're doing. This may be called a pastime because he is going by his own free will. It is not that he has become subject to the laws of the prison, but still a foolish prisoner may think, oh, here the governor is also in prison, so we are equal. I am also governor. Rascals think like that. Because Krishna has descended as an avatar, they say, I am also an avatar. So here it is said, Kunti says, Na Veda Kaschid Bhagavams Chikirshitam. No one knows the purpose of your appearance and disappearance. Tave Hamanasya Nranam Vidambanam. The Lord's pastimes are bewildering. No one can understand their real purpose. But the real purpose of the Lord's pastimes is his free will. He thinks, let me go and see. He doesn't need to come and kill the demons. He has so many agents in the material nature that can kill them. For example, in a moment, he can kill thousands of demons merely by a strong wind. Nor does he need to come to give protection to the devotees, for he can do everything simply by his will. But he descends to enjoy pleasure pastimes. Let me go and see. Sometimes Krishna even wants to enjoy the pleasure pastimes of fighting. The fighting spirit is also in Krishna. Otherwise, wherefrom have we gotten it? Because we are part and parcel of Krishna, all the qualities of Krishna are present in minute quantity within us. We are samples of Krishna. Wherefrom do we get the fighting spirit? It is present in Krishna. Therefore, just as a king sometimes engages a wrestler to fight with him, Krishna also engages living entities to engage in fighting. The wrestler is paid to fight with the king. He is not the king's enemy. Rather, he gives pleasure to the king by mock fighting. But when Krishna wants to fight, who will fight with him? Not anyone ordinary. If a king wants to practice mock fighting, he will engage some very qualified wrestler. Similarly, Krishna does not fight with anyone ordinary, but rather with some of his great devotees. Because Krishna wants to fight, some of his devotees come down to the material world, become his enemies, and fight with him. For example, The Lord descended to kill Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. Should we think that these were ordinary living entities? No, they were the great devotees Jai and Vijay, who came to this world because Krishna wanted to fight. In the Vaikuntha world, the spiritual world, there is no possibility of fighting because everyone there engages in Krishna's service. With whom will he fight? Therefore, he sends some devotee in the garb of an enemy and comes here to this material world to fight with him. At the same time, the Lord teaches us that becoming his enemy is not very profitable, and that it is better to become his friend. Kunti Devi therefore says, Na Veda Kaschid Bhagavam Chikirshita. No one knows the purpose of your appearance and disappearance. Nave Hamanasya Ranam Vidambanam. You are in this world just like an ordinary human being, and this is bewildering. Because Krishna sometimes appears like an ordinary man, people sometimes cannot believe or understand his activities. They wonder, how can God become an ordinary person like us? But although Krishna sometimes plays like an ordinary person, in fact, he is not ordinary, and whenever necessary, he displays the powers of God. When 16,000 girls were kidnapped by the demon Bhaumasura, they prayed to Krishna, and therefore Krishna went to the demon's palace, killed the demon, and delivered all the girls. But according to the strict Vedic system, if an unmarried girl leaves her home, even for one night, no one will marry her. Therefore, when Krishna told the girls, "Now you can safely return to your father's homes," they replied, "Sir, if we return to the homes of our fathers, what will be our fate? No one will marry us because this man has kidnapped us." "Then what do you want?" Krishna asked. The girls replied, "We want you to become our husband." And Krishna is so kind that he immediately said yes and accepted them. Now, when Krishna brought the girls back home to his capital city, it is not that each of the 16,000 wives had to wait 16,000 nights to meet with Krishna. Rather, Krishna expanded himself into 16,000 forms, constructed 16,000 palaces, and lived in each palace with each wife. Although this is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, rascals cannot understand this. Instead, they criticize Krishna. He was very lusty, they say. He married 16,000 wives. But even if he is lusty, he is unlimitedly lusty. God is unlimited. Why 16,000? He could marry 16 million and still not reach the limits of his perfection. That is Krishna. We cannot accuse Krishna of being lusty or sensuous. No, there are so many devotees of Krishna, and Krishna shows favor to all of them. Some ask Krishna to become their husband, some ask Krishna to become their friend, some ask Krishna to become their son, and some ask Krishna to become their playmate. In this way, there are millions and trillions of devotees all over the universe, and Krishna has to satisfy them all. He does not need any help from these devotees, but because they want to serve him in a particular way, the Lord reciprocates. These 16,000 devotees wanted Krishna as their husband, and therefore Krishna agreed. Bhaktiville says in the comments, Prabhupada makes it sound so attractive. He represents Krishna really well. Yes, I agree. Thus, Krishna may sometimes act like a common man, but as God, he expanded himself into 16,000 forms. Once the great sage Narada went to visit Krishna and his wives. Krishna has married 16,000 wives, he thought. Let me see how he's dealing with them. So then he found Krishna living differently in each of the 16,000 palaces. In one palace, he was talking with his wife. In another, he was playing with his children. In another, he was arranging for the marriage of his sons and daughters. And in this way, he was engaged in varied pastimes in all of the 16,000 palaces. Similarly, in his childhood, Krishna played just like an ordinary child. But when his mother, Yashoda, wanted him to open his mouth so that she could see whether he had eaten dirt, within his mouth he showed her all the universes. This is Krishna. Although he plays just like an ordinary human being, when there is need, he shows his nature as God. To give another example, Krishna acted as the chariot driver of Arjuna. But when Arjuna wanted to see Krishna's universal form, Krishna immediately showed him a cosmic form with thousands and millions of heads, legs, arms, and weapons. This is Krishna. Krishna is completely independent. He has no friends or enemies, but he plays for the benefit of both his friends and enemies. And when he acts for the benefit of either, the result is the same. That is Krishna's absolute nature. And that's the end of chapter 12. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Any questions or other comments? Let's see who's here. Bhaktiville, have anything you want to say or add? Nope, nothing more to add. All right, thank you everyone for coming and listening to us virtually. I hope that you will take up my challenge and come to Bhaktiville and meet us here and add to our varied community. Have a wonderful new year. We'll see you next year. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.